Today on Reengineer You, we're talking with one of my good friends, Dan Ritchie, Ph.D., Dr. Dan Ritchie, who was the PFP Personal Trainer of the Year this year, 2014, beat out 500 other applicants from all around the world, and we're talking about aging gracefully today. So this is an episode if you are, 45, 50, 55, 60, 75, 80 years old, and you want to be strong and live strong and get stronger as you get older and have some workout strategies to help you do that, this is going to be a great episode for you. So don't go anywhere because that's coming up next. Hello everyone and welcome to Reengineer You, the #1 show for massive weight loss and lifestyle transformation. I am your host, Cameron Makarchuk, Master Transformation Coach, and I am here today with a very, very special guest, a good friend of mine, and the reigning 2014 PFP Personal Trainer of the Year, which is a huge, huge deal. Big fitness magazine, and lots of people applied, over 500 applicants into this award, and all over the world, 8 countries, and it's a very, very prestigious award. So congratulations to you, Dan Ritchie. How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks very much. Yeah, I've got the award sitting on my shelf over there.
Yeah,
so.
No doubt. I would have it like branded on my T-shirt if I won that. Wearing it all the time. So how's that feel being? Because I remember we were talking the last time I saw you down in Vegas. You were in the running for it, and
yeah.
So yeah, how's it feel to have actually won?
Feels really good. It's pretty amazing to be on the live stage in Chicago in this kind of like the auto show of fitness shows, and there's hundreds of people walking around, and gym equipment everywhere, and people showing off treadmills and hanging systems and just all kinds of crazy fitness. It's kind of like a playground for us, and to be announced live the winner out of the top 3, I was sitting there really not expecting it. I really was kind of surprised. And my wife's intuition was sort of like, she's like, I don't think you're going to win it. She said, I can tell. She's like, I can tell the way they're talking to the gal that she's going to win it. And I was like, okay, if you say so. So then I had sort of just, I'm sitting on stage like, well, they're not going to call my name because my wife's intuition is always right.
Yeah.
So I really was surprised. And, to me, it's sort of a nice culmination of what I've been saying for probably the last 10 years, which is that the fitness industry has got to start paying attention to, people over 40, got to start paying attention to sort of functional fitness solutions and sort of, it's not just about six-pack abs and, fitness vanity. And the reality is when you look around at that fitness show, while it's fun for me, my wife, who just recently turned 40, she basically said, there's really no place here for the regular person.
Yeah.
She's like, there's no place here for somebody who's overweight. There's no place here for somebody who feels like they're over 50. And, she's like, this is for like serious either bodybuilders, fitness models. It's like, if you don't have six-pack abs, you feel out of place,
Yeah.
And so, it just again sort of reminded me, and it's kind of nice and affirming for me to win an award when I've kind of staked my career out on working with people that either are older clients or people that have functional issues or chronic health conditions and have not set out to train, the kind of the glamorous and the vanity. And, so to me, it's kind of I hope the fitness industry is saying, hey, we need to shift to the other 80% of the population out there,
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think we're kind of in the same realm for the demographic that we work with, sort of. Because I'm the same way. I don't work with fitness models. I don't work with bodybuilders or athletes even, or people that are anywhere near having six-pack abs. It's people that are very overweight and people that don't feel comfortable in those particular settings and in those gym settings. And you're right, like everywhere, like in local gyms and even online, it's really bad. But everywhere you go, it's like all about six-pack abs and burning the last 5 pounds and getting shredded and all of this, and these hardcore crazy workouts, which are great for those people, but for the people that me and you work with, it's not.
Yeah, there's a huge disconnect because it's sort of like, somebody who's 50 to 100 pounds overweight is, they're looking at that like, well, that's never going to be,
Yeah.
appropriate for them,
Yeah.
and in fact, their goal may never be to get six pack abs. They might not even care about that. They
Yeah.
just want to feel better, be healthier,
Yeah.
take care of themselves, and I have always said, at our fitness center, if you feel like you have to get in shape just to join our fitness center, then we're the place for you
Yeah.
because we're going to take you in, if you're 20 pounds overweight or 100 pounds overweight,
Hmm.
we've worked with several clients over 350 pounds, and they feel comfortable at our place because
Yep.
we're not about the vanity aspect. To us, it's about function, it's about human movement, it's about feeling better. It's about getting back the life you really want to have, not some sort of, I got to look sexy in my skinny jeans kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, like that's a big commonality for my studio also. Like it's people that yeah, you're right. Like I've heard it all the time. People feel that they need to be in shape to go to a personal trainer, or they need to be in shape to go get coaching or something. And I'm like,
Yeah.
look, you've come to the right place. Like this is exactly where you need to be if that's how you feel in a normal setting. So that's awesome. I
Yeah.
think that is a very good step in the right direction for the industry as a whole. Having someone like yourself win one of those big awards. So congratulations again. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Um, and the other thing that you have to your name too is a PhD. So should I be calling you doctor when we're talking?
Yeah,
Is
you
that
do
how
not
people
need to
address
call
you?
me. Yeah, you could call me doctor, but you don't need to. I rarely ask people to call me that, but yeah, technically I am a doctor. I got a PhD in health and kinesiology, and really my specialized focus was studying exercise and balance and how balance impacts, falls and just mobility as people get older, and kind of studying how does exercise really impact aging. Really, what we've learned in the last 20 years through the research is kind of mind blowing. To think that even 20 years ago, we just discovered that people over 90 can get stronger. When we used to think, oh, people over 90 shouldn't do anything
Yeah.
physically demanding, take it easy. We've actually realized, no, people over 90 can get stronger just like 20-year-olds can. And so it's kind of led the whole research field to realize that maybe everything we thought about aging is really based on long-term inactivity, not aging. And
Mm.
so what 75 looks like might be very different depending on how physically active you are. And I've seen that here at our facility. We have 75-year-olds that can do everything I can do in a workout. I mean,
Hmm.
they can do all kinds of things. And then you have other 75-year-olds that use a walker.
Yeah.
And so why is that? And the research is starting to point to it's purely physical activity, it's activities of daily living, it's how inactive are you from age 30 to 70 that really plays a big role. And so it's really important for people in their 30s, 40s, 50s to be physically active if you want to enjoy those later years. I think a lot of times people think, oh, well, I'll do that when I turn 60. I'll do that great adventure, that trip, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Well, if that's true, you better be physically active in your 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that really creeps up on people too pretty quickly once they start, they hit like I'm going to turn 30 this year, and then all of a sudden it's going to be tomorrow and I'll be 40 and then 50, and then
Yep.
all of a sudden I'm 75 years old and I'm like, holy shit, where did the time go? But
Yeah,
yeah, you're right. Like you gotta keep.
your 30s go fast. They really
Yeah.
do. They go fast. You get into your 40s and they go fast, and pretty soon it's like, wow, I got grandkids running around, and you realize that energy gap, and I think
Hmm.
that's where a lot of people are like, boy, I wish I had stayed in better shape,
Yeah.
in my 40s, and so
Yeah, yeah, and that's a big thing for a lot of my clients too, as they get it. Because I'm kind of in that for my clientele. It's usually around that 35 to 45, but I'm starting to notice a lot more around the 50, 55, and we just recently had a few 60, 63 year olds starting up too. So it is kind of, I think people are trying to kind of starting to get that realization that it is okay to work out when you're older, and to start something, a strength training program or some sort of exercise program when you are getting up above that 50, 55, 60 age range.
yeah,
And
yeah. I think this generation, the baby boom generation, people in that 50 to 65 range, they don't want to grow old like their parents did.
mhm,
So the concept of, growing old quietly and, just kind of sitting in a rocking chair somewhere, that is not at all this generation,
yeah,
which is really what our functional fitness program's about. We basically said, hey, it's not about what age you are you growing old, which is why, we titled our program Never Grow Old Fitness Program, because we really believe if you're 70 and you're exercising vigorously and doing the strength training you need to do, you can still have tremendous functional ability in your 90s.
Hmm.
And it sort of changes the thought of, well, why would I want to live to 90? Because a 90-year-old is weak and can't do anything. Well, what if a 90-year-old can still play golf and tennis and go on cruises? And, my 94-year-old grandmother, she still travels all across the country. In fact, a couple of years ago, she went to New Zealand and visited friends
Wow.
in Australia. It's sort of like, hey, she's doing a lot more than I'm doing,
Yeah.
because she's got the time to do it and she's physically able, So, she to me, she's living life at its full at age 94. So
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and I noticed I was just kind of browsing through your websites and everything too. I noticed you do have like there's a lot of success stories and testimonials and case studies and stuff on your websites of people that are yeah like 75, 80, 85 years old and going on these big trips and hiking all over the place and doing. I saw one woman went to the Galapagos Islands when she was like
yeah,
85 or something, and
right.
like it's
With
crazy.
Parkinson's. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
she did it with Parkinson's. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of times people have some of the, like I'd love to go to the Galapagos Islands.
yeah,
I won't have time to do that for probably another 20 years. So,
yeah.
yeah, I had one client, she went to Antarctica and she was a little bit shorter. She was probably, if you're being generous, she's 5 foot tall.
Wow.
And so the biggest challenge for her was, how am I going to climb in and out of these rubber boats that, go up on the beach and stuff? And, she's like,
Yeah.
I got to be strong enough to hike out of those things and hike back in. And
Hmm.
she's like, I don't want to be the old lady on the trip. And so for her, personal training really had nothing to do with weight loss or vanity or any of that stuff. It was just, I want to be able to be physically able to do, some of these adventure things I want to do.
Hmm.
And they have since gone on some other trips as well. So
That's very cool. Very, very cool. So let's really get into the meat of this stuff. What would be is there, if any, I guess, differences in training programs for like how you would design an exercise program for someone who's 55, 60, 75 years old and rather than your run-of-the-mill generic type of programming? What would be the differences in that?
yeah, the huge difference really in the way we've developed our program is we want to think about what sort of functional outcomes does a 55, 60, and 65-year-old want. And typically, almost universally, what we found is they want to be able to move better, they want to have better mobility, they want their hips and their knees not to hurt from exercising. And so a huge mistake I think a lot of trainers make is they just think, oh, well, I'll just do with a 55-year-old what I do with a 30-year-old. And
Hmm.
so the trainer doesn't even think about, well, what's a burpee and a squat jump and a hop and all these ballistic dynamic activities doing to
Hmm.
their hips and their knees.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean a 6-year-old can't train really hard and really intense. It just means we got to be a little bit smarter in terms of the movements, the impacts. We want them the next couple of days to feel invigorated, not like they've been beaten up.
Hmm.
Not like this exercise program is making me feel worse. My knees hurt more than ever.
Hmm.
Um, we want them to be able to move better. So we want to think about things like how do we improve balance, mobility, but also power. A lot of times, just simple strength programs don't impact power,
Hmm.
and power is so huge for people over 60. They start to say, I can't hit the golf ball as far, I can't hit the tennis ball as hard, and all of that's related to power, which
Hmm.
means they've lost strength and speed, and so we've got to figure out a way to train both of those.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, it means we've got to do a lot of the training on your feet, and so while training on our feet may not be as important for people our age, it's really important for people over the age of 45 and 50 because we start to lose some of that reaction time and some of those ground reaction forces. Those are really essential for things like as simple as climbing stairs.
Hmm.
So I always tell a lot of our female clients, hey, I want you to be able to climb stairs carrying a laundry basket over your head. And they always look at me like, why would I ever do that? I'm like, well, you probably wouldn't, but I know if I train you to do that, then climbing stairs carrying something is never going to be a challenging task for you. So
Yeah.
we want to think about, okay, what's a 55, 60, 65-year-old have to face in regular life, and then train them so that those tasks are easy, not challenging, because we want to make life easier, which means now you can do more and now you become more active. And so we hear our clients say, hey, I'm golfing more, I'm playing tennis more, I'm playing with the grandkids more, I'm going to the park more, I'm walking the dog more. All these things that we know are now supplemental behaviors that mean they're going to age better, they're going to live better, they're going to feel better, as opposed to, everything hurts, so I just sit on the couch, or
Hmm.
everything hurts, and so I just stay home. So And then obviously there's the social aspect too. You know, the more physically active you are, the more active you are in the community, the more you're engaging with other people, the more alive you are, as opposed to becoming more and more shut in because, oh, I don't want to get out because my knees hurt or my hips hurt or that sort of thing.
Okay, cool, cool. And you talk a lot about dysfunctional exercise in the manual I was seeing
Yeah.
for your program. So maybe explain what is dysfunctional exercise and what would that look like and how should we avoid that?
Yeah. I think I hesitate to jump in and just say, hey, machines are bad because machines aren't bad. But I
Hmm.
think the health club industry for sure has just sort of propagated this, hey, there's all kinds of strength machines that you can use to get stronger. And a lot of those things actually especially for clients over 50 can be pretty dysfunctional. And so you go into a health club and they get you stronger on all these machines that does not automatically translate to movements on your feet.
Hmm.
And so now you're stronger, but you're not more functional. And so you start to say to yourself, well, how's this exercise really impacting my life? I still can't pick something up off the floor without my back hurting.
Yeah,
It's like, well, they haven't trained you for that because
yeah,
all they did was train you to get stronger on a leg press, which
yeah.
I happen to like a leg press. I think it's useful.
Hmm.
But there are a lot of times, a lot of exercise programs become dysfunctional because we don't integrate it into human movement. So, what's it like to pick something up off the floor, move it up to a shelf? I've got to turn and rotate. If I'm just sitting on a machine doing something that's very,
Yeah.
fixed, then I'm not getting the functional aspect of that.
Hmm.
And then sometimes trainers, I think, have gone too far. This whole functional training explosion in the 90s and early 2000s, it was like, well, if you're not doing something on a stability ball, then it's not functional enough.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you see trainers doing things, and it's like, that's not an appropriate exercise to do with anyone of any
Yeah.
age.
Like
Now,
standing on on a balance ball or
yeah, you
standing
saw
on a stability
trainers
ball.
squatting on a balance ball. It's like, okay, that's really not a smart thing to do. And so sometimes trainers started introducing unstable surfaces, like they'll put people on balance foam pads or they'll put people on Dynadiscs, and they really don't know why they're doing it.
Hmm.
And so there's a dysfunction there. Just putting somebody on a stability ball does not necessarily make it a more functional exercise unless there's a purpose to it.
Yeah.
Um, so that is one issue that I have seen in a lot of fitness programs is they really haven't thought, so how is this training protocol impacting the outcome I want, as opposed to this is a cool exercise.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, do you think there is a place for in programs for like the 50 plus range with like the Bosu balls and the wobble boards and the foam pads and stuff like that? Do you think there is a place in those types of programs for that stuff, or are they just kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, definitely I do. I mean, we use the Bosu and we use wobble boards and we use foam pads. But again, they have to be functionally done and they have to be done in a way that is impacting what we want. And
right?
so, in a lot of cases, using a Bosu is not appropriate with a lot of older clients because
Hmm.
it's not going to lead to what you want. And
Yeah,
so it really depends on what is it you're trying to train. And I think sometimes people make the mistake of thinking, well, if we put you on a wobble board, it's going to make the exercise harder. It's
yeah.
like, well, yeah, that's true, but it may not actually be improving balance or strength.
Hmm.
In fact, a lot of times, if you want to get stronger, you want to lift heavy weights.
Yeah,
Well, if I put you on a wobble board, you're not going to be able to lift as heavy a weight. And so now you're not actually training the outcome you want. And so, but certainly, yeah, we use a lot of different surface implements and a lot of different strategies.
okay, cool. So take me through give us maybe an example of a typical training program for, let's say, 65-year-old female, was active when she was younger, did some sports when she was younger in her teens and 20s, but got a desk job, didn't do anything for the last 45 years, and isn't hugely overweight. Maybe she's 30, 40 pounds overweight.
Hmm.
Has some back pain, some knee pain, so just the general, the basic things when you're 65 years old. And
Yeah.
so, and she just wants to be stronger, just be more active, and be able to move into her 70s and 80s in a little bit better fashion. What type of training program would you give someone like that?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a pretty common client for us.
Hmm.
Our online program is really perfectly designed for somebody like that because we know starting out they're going to have to go slow and kind of take it easy. So starting out, we're just going to start working on just balance and mobility and movement. How do they move? And we want to get them moving better. So we'll start with a lot of different gait pattern things. So they're going to be doing different marching movements, tiptoe walking, heel walking, a lot of different lunge patterns. We like to use lunges a lot. I think the mistake some trainers think is, oh, we got to do the textbook lunge. Well, with a 65-year-old, the range of motion might be much smaller, right?
Yeah.
Because you said her knees are hurting, her hips are hurting. So we're not going to do a deep down to the floor lunge.
Yeah.
And we might only do a quarter to a half lunge starting out, and then that will get more as she gets stronger and as her range of motion improves. And we also want to do lunges in different directions, so not just straight ahead. So we're going to do them at a 45-degree angle, at a 90-degree angle, and kind of move around the clock, so to speak. So sort of that three-dimensional aspect of movement. Most people, like you said, for the most part, most jobs are seated. So people are doing what we're doing. They're sitting, right? And so they've lost this ability to rotate and turn, which is why you see people that are 65, they can't look over their shoulder when they're driving, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they just come over and expect you to move, right? So we want to teach, how do you turn through the head, through the shoulders, through the waist. We want to kind of open up that spine. So we work a lot of rotational movement through the hips and the spine. Most of what we're going to do is going to be standing, because again, we want them to get better on their feet, but there'll be some things where we get down on the floor and we do some plank activities and some hip lifts and some bridge work and some of that sort of stuff to work on that low back, that hip, and that butt complex, because most people that I've found in their 60s have really completely lost their glute strength. So their butt muscle is just gone. They've been sitting on it too long, and it's not strong, and so they really don't have their powerhouse to be able to get out of a chair quickly, to be able to push off quickly. That is our biggest and most dominant muscle in sports. But when we sit on it for 40 years, it tends to atrophy. And so how we redevelop, the glute muscle is a big thing for a lot of women over 50, honestly.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that sounds, to give myself a compliment, that sounds exactly like how I designed the programs for my 65-year-old clients. So that's so good for me.
Good.
The other thing that I really liked about when I was kind of glancing through your program was the levels. And that's something that, like the levels of exercise and levels of workouts, and that's something that when I look through people's, average trainers programs and stuff like that, it's just a general program and there's no levels built in, and that's something like at my studio I build in levels for people in our group programming. There's always levels of exercises for people that are coming in. So if they start them at level 1, move them up to level 2, level 3, and so on. And so I was really happy to see in there that you have, I think you have 4 or 5 levels.
We have 4 levels. Level 1 and 2 are really what we kind of call beginner levels, and then level 3 and 4, and we really eventually we'll probably have up to 8 to 10 levels. We really said, look, the average 50 to 70-year-old is very diverse. You can have a 50-year-old like Shauna, who's in our exercise videos, who's as fit as you can possibly be at age 50, right? She's way
as
more
fit as you can possibly be at age 20.
Yeah, she's way more fit than me. Like I don't even want to think about doing some of her challenge workouts she's had me do, and I've nearly puked, But we thought, okay, we need to have a workout that challenges her and gives her the appropriate functional movements. Now, it's not as intense as what she can do. But we said, hey, a 50-year-old may have a much higher fitness level than a 70-year-old. But the odd thing is, we actually thought, there are some 50-year-olds who are overweight, sedentary, haven't exercised since high school, and so they need a beginner level. And then there are going to be some 65-year-olds who say, I've been running marathons, I've been a fitness enthusiast, I've been doing every gym since I was 20, and they're going to come in and say, I need, level 3 or 4. I need to be challenged. And so we do have 4 definitely different levels, and over time we're going to have to develop more, because we're going to have some people saying, hey, I need even more advanced. And we're going to have some coming along saying, I need more beginner and intermediate level programs. And then even from that, there's more diversity, because you get some people that have had knee replacements or hip replacements, and they can't get down on the floor at all. And so there is, what we have found, the biggest diversity in clients in the 50 to 70. If you're training 25 and 30-year-olds, for the most part, they can all do whatever you ask them to do.
Yeah.
Even if they're not fit, they can probably all do the same exercises. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome. And one last thing here too. What do you recommend for cardio? What's your cardio recommendations usually for that older population?
Good question. We recommend in the we don't show any cardio in our workout programs. We show all functional movements.
Hmm.
In our manual, we recommend that people do some high intensity interval cardio. So real similar to what we'd recommend for younger people as well. None of this 30 to 60 minutes slow slogging it out.
Yeah.
Steady state stuff. So even for somebody who's 70 years old, they need that high intensity intervals. So I really like to see people keep it to 20 minutes, but make it intense.
Yeah.
So they're doing the high intensity intervals. So if they're walking, a lot of older clients like to walk, and they say, "Oh, I walk," and I say, that's fine for leisure activity, but if you're really using walking for exercise, then you've got to have some intervals, which means you've got to have a lot of hills in there. And I tell a lot of our clients that use treadmills, hey, if you're going to use the treadmill, you got to put in some serious incline at least every other minute or two. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's really the way I like to approach it. I think for somebody who's 60, 65 years old, their heart needs some exercise. So I think cardiovascular exercise is appropriate, but it still should be intense and vigorous. And even right here in Indiana, we've faced a lot of snow this winter, and I think about just how intense it is to shovel snow. And so if people haven't been doing intense cardio intervals, they're really not prepared to go out and shovel snow.
Yeah.
They're not prepared to deal with some of the things they have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have the same problem here with snow. We just got whacked with another storm just yesterday. Actually, we got it was crazy out here, like complete whiteout blizzards, and
Oh wow.
oh man, it was nuts for the last couple of days. You couldn't drive anywhere. It was just completely white. It was like driving blind. It was crazy.
Oh, that's crazy.
But that's the first thing people say too is they go out and they start shoveling some snow and they're like, holy Christ, like my back hurts, and that's hard work shoveling a little driveway. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you've been walking 25 miles a day, but you're not doing anything, intense like that. You're not doing short bursts of energy, or even if it is, just like jacking the incline up and walking up an incline for a minute or 30 seconds or whatever.
Shoveling is one of the most intense activities we can do. I've seen some of the research studies. I mean, we've studied it just because unfortunately it's killed a lot of people. A lot of people have heart attacks shoveling, and they underestimate. There's kind of two things going on. One is it's an activity we take for granted. It doesn't seem like it's that hard, but then two, it's really cold. And so we don't realize how hard we're working because the cold kind of tricks us into thinking, oh, I'm not working that hard because I'm not getting hot, I'm not getting all sweaty. And so we don't realize in 5 to 10 minutes we could have moved thousands of pounds of snow.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody who's inactive and you haven't lifted a weight or moved any poundage, all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm going to go out and move 10,000 pounds of snow. So if you're not ready for that, unfortunately the ERs get really busy with people having cardiac events from just shoveling snow.
Absolutely. Even like I just moved into a condo out here and there's a big balcony. Even just shoveling the snow off my bloody balcony is tough, and I lift weights all the time. And even
it's heavy stuff to move. It's heavy stuff.
Yeah, Jesus. And then the last thing, can't someone just go and get some medication for all of this stuff as you get older? Can't we just go get some drugs and get some prescription meds and just pop some pills and feel much better as we get older? Isn't that a viable solution?
Yeah, well, it's kind of the last thing you said there. Absolutely, you can go get pills to control your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your diabetes, all these conditions. But I'm not sure if it's going to make you feel better. Exercise is probably the only thing that's going to make you feel better. Exercise is medicine. The American College of Sports Medicine has been kind of declaring that for almost 10 years now. And I wish more physicians would get on board with that. It's easy for a physician to push a pill, and I'm sure they get some sort of kickback on that. They don't get any kickback on their patients exercising. But if you really want to feel better, if you want to feel the way your body wants to feel, you need to move. You need to move your muscles. You need to move your joints. A pill is not going to solve that. Yeah, a pill might help control your blood pressure, but it's really not going to make you feel much better. In fact, I bet if you ask the average person who's over 45 years old that's on more than 2 medications, they don't feel that great. And when it goes up to 3 and 4 and 5 medications, they feel even worse. In fact, one of the biggest risks for falls for people over the age of 60 is being on multiple medications. Because you start to get on a lot of things, and you know what? Your reaction time gets worse. You know, your brain can start to get a little bit cloudy, a little bit foggy. I mean, you're over medicated. You know, it's really kind of common sense. If I asked you to go take 5 pills right now, you know, you're probably not going to feel like your normal self. You know, so so when in doubt, people should be striving to get off every medication they possibly can, and exercise is the only thing I've seen that helps people do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I asked that as kind of a loaded question, but
Yeah.
I completely agree.
That was kind of a softball.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I have people come in all the time, and they're on cholesterol meds and blood pressure meds and diabetes meds and insulin
Yeah.
and all all kinds of joint, anti-inflammatory type meds, and yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, none of them feel any better. Like they get rid of some of the symptoms of their aches and pains, but they don't actually feel any better. And
Right.
that's something, yeah, like you said, that exercise is one of the only things that can actually do that. And you feel, given the right exercise program, you feel so much better after you've done it, like immediately. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's amazing about exercise is it's a one dose thing. You know, people do it and they feel better right away. You know, in fact, a lot of our clients, you know, they say I gotta exercise 5 days a week because the days I don't exercise, I feel the worst.
Yep.
You know, my knees feel better, my joints feel better. You know, just their mood is better. You know, the research on depression and mood is crazy when it comes to exercise. You know, it's sort of like you can come in depressed, and by the end of your exercise session, you can't help it. Your mood is improved. You know, so and I've seen this with clients that come in and they're in a bad mood, they're grouchy, they don't want to talk about anything. By the time the session's over, they're like, "Man, I'm really glad I came in."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of my clients always says that the days that he feels the worst, he knows. Then the days that he doesn't want to come into the workout are the days when he knows he has to, and and he always feels the best, and he has the best workouts on those days, and feels great, and leaves feeling great. So it's I mean, I've read some of that research too on depression and how exercise is the greatest antidepressant that you can get, and So
one of my clients is actually his whole career has been as a therapist, and he's been well recognized through his career at Purdue. And he told me the other day, you know, he said, I tell people, and he said, I've told my clients for years, if cost is the issue and it comes down to one thing, he said, don't get therapy with me, go get exercise. You know, he said, because that more than anything is going to help you be less depressed than have a therapy. So
yeah, absolutely.
I thought that was a strong statement from a guy who's basically saying, hey, you know, don't come see me, go get exercise. So.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can completely agree. Well, yeah, I mean, that's awesome, man. That's a lot of really, really good information, and I think we touched on everything that I had written down here. So let's just talk a little bit more about your actual program. So we hit on a couple of the things. You have this program, Functional Fitness Solution, or the Never Grow Old program. So just tell us a little bit more about that, and where can people find out more about that program?
Yeah, great. Well, it's functionalfitnesssolution.com is where they can get the program. It's actually, I believe it's 12 workout videos. So again, there's the 4 different levels. So there's 2 or 3 workouts at each level. There's actually about 4 or 5 videos where we talk about sort of the science and research behind how exercising impacts functional movement, how it impacts balance, how it impacts aging, and why it's really important, and why you really shouldn't wait till you're 60 to start an exercise program. I always get frustrated when people are like, oh, well, I'll start an exercise program when I retire. Like, well, it's going to really impact your aging, you know, if you haven't been exercising. So yeah, functionalfitnesssolution.com. They can actually get the program right to their iPad, their iPhone, so they can use it in their gym, they can use it at home. If they want DVDs, there's that option as well. Some people want the DVD so they can pop it in and do it at home. There's that option as well. So it's all follow-along workouts. Several of the workouts, I'm the guy going through the exercises. Cody is doing the training, and I'm actually doing the exercises. So I'll be right there doing every repetition with you, and he makes me do every single one. You know, so they're all about 16 to 20 minutes long. So they're not terribly long workouts. They're something that anybody can do at home. You can do it in the office. Very little equipment's needed. Really, a resistance band and a dumbbell is about all you need. So, and
Awesome.
you can pick up a resistance band, just about anywhere these days. Target, Walmart, sporting goods store. So there's really not much equipment needed. You don't need any fancy clothes or anything like that. So,
Hmm.
I usually recommend, no matter what your fitness level, start with level one. If that's easy, then move on to level two. If that's still easy, move on to level three.
Hmm.
So because they're not long workouts, some people will use level one as their warm up, just because there's a lot of functional movements, a lot of balance movements that are good to do, just sort of as a warm up, and then they go on to a level three or four workout. So
Hmm.
there's a whole manual in there. It's about a 65-page book where Cody, my partner in this project, who also has his PhD, we basically share about 20 years of kind of research and experience in this field. And between the two of us, we've trained over 2,000 clients now. And so we've put together a lot of practical experience of what really does work
Hmm.
to help somebody, best in terms of, how do I age from 50 to 55, from 55 to 60, from 60 to 65, and
Hmm.
it's rewarding when I have a 75-year-old client say, I'm in way better shape than I am when I was 65.
Yeah.
And to him, that sort of like, he's like, the light bulb has gone off. Like 85 is not looking as scary as I thought it was going to be, because 75 is now better than 65 was,
Yeah.
and so to me, that's kind of what the whole program's about. If you're 55 and you're feeling like, man, I don't know what my 60s are going to look like, they can look a whole lot better if you
Yeah.
start exercising.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's really good. And yeah, like I was saying before, I took a look through the program and everything a little bit before this call and read some of it, and there's a lot of really, really, really good information in there, and a lot of really great workouts too. And like I said, the levels are awesome. Having those level one, level two, level three, level four is great, for so if, it fits just about anybody. They can come in and do whichever level is appropriate for them, um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just a really great program. There's really no excuses for someone not being able to do it, because there's not really a whole lot of equipment and there's different levels, so you'll be able to do the workouts. And yeah, it's just a really, really well designed program. So I will put a link also below this video, or somewhere around here, or below the video somewhere, so people can go and grab it
Cool.
and check that out. Is there anywhere else that people can read more about you, find out more about you? Do you have a blog or anything, or a website? I can't remember, other than the product.
Yeah, I do have a blog. Functionalfitnesssolution.com/blog is our blog. So if people want to get, more topics, and, just read more about, we got things on there like, are you ready to live to 100? And
Hmm.
are you eating enough protein? And, just functional exercises and, things like that. So we're always putting blog posts up there. Lots of videos. We put lots of videos up there in terms of, like, why you shouldn't be doing the barbell bench press, or,
Hmm.
just different things like that. We start to try to make people think a little bit about, like, hey, I'm 60 years old. Maybe the barbell bench press isn't the exercise I should be doing anymore.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of content on there. So that would probably be the other place I would recommend people check out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll put a link to that also below this. And any closing thoughts, Dan, before we wrap up this episode?
I just, thanks again for having me on, and, mentioning some of what I'm doing. And, I think some of the stuff you're doing, helping people, really, to me, it excites me to say, hey, look, fitness really is for everyone. I think, unfortunately, the fitness industry, for the most part, people look at the fitness industry and they sort of look at us jaded, like, oh, you guys are all about, taking your shirts off and,
Hmm.
showing your six pack abs and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
the reality is, none of that is really that important,
Hmm.
in the big scheme of things. And so for me, it's really about helping people. It's helping people feel better, and it's really about helping people live the best life that they can. And so I know exercise, fitness, and movements can do that for people. And so it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You don't have to have a personal trainer,
Hmm.
but you do have to exercise, and you do have to do it in a progressive way and a functional way. And so hopefully my program can help some of your followers, and hopefully we can connect again soon.
Awesome. Yes. And so yeah, thanks a lot, Dan. And like I said, I'll put a link below here for that functional fitness solution program, or you can check out functionalfitnesssolution.com/blog, which I'll also put somewhere around here below this video. And so that does it for this episode of Reengineer You. Thank you to Personal Trainer of the Year, Dan Ritchie, Ph.D., Dr. Dan. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please do us a favor, click the like, tweet, +1, share button below. Leave me comments on the blog at reengineeryou.com, and I will do my best to answer that for you or point you in the right direction. But that does it. So that's it for us. I will see you guys in the next episode.